Hi, so my name is Santiago, New Reality Explorer. I'm a collaborator of George Yergovsky, Cheers George, and we're both researchers and educators at Caltech, California Institute of Technology, out here in Pasadena, California. I'm also a professor in interaction design, faculty in interaction design at Art Center College of Design, uh, and we've been working on higher. We've been working. They, I think, perfect. They, I think, need to mute because I'm getting echo through you. So we've been researching in science, but we also have been done quite a bit in terms of education and and virtual reality and virtual worlds. So as you'll hear next when the Miami talks, virtual reality can be really good at having some target audience have a really strong sense of presence and understanding of the scale of things and how things look. But it's not perfect for everything. And we know that same thing as virtual worlds, right? Virtual worlds can be amazing at having a sense of community, talking to each other. But when it comes down to seeing certain details or having some other sense of communication, so forth. So we know that these technologies have been around for quite a bit, but they just haven't, caught on for obvious reasons, I think by now. Um, so so where do we think that VR, virtual worlds, and the whole thing is going to go in terms of education? How do we can predict anything? So our qualifications are, first of all, we're data scientists. So we understand what it means to look at information and try to understand, try to extract some understanding and some discover something new about it. Um, we're also interaction designers, so we know what it means to think about who the user is. And it's not just about presenting things, it's about what is the user trying to accomplish in all these spaces. And that's particularly interesting in education where people are trying to learn or extract some information and retain amounts of information. We have quite a bit of experience in virtual reality. We did virtual reality back in the cave days, 25 years ago, a lot longer. And I teach classes at Art Center as well as Caltech. So there's quite a bit of 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 background that makes us know different parts of that and made us excited about actually getting started in this whole world of education and virtual reality and mixed reality and virtual worlds. Um, so where did we start? Well, we started by saying, okay, who we are. We are at Caltech, one of the highest ranking universities in science in the country, if not the world. We also manage JPL, so JPL is actually part of Caltech. And we actually do quite a bit of collaboration with Caltech, with JPL, and I'll talk about it a little later. But so we know what it means to have data and try to extract understanding out of it. And we know what it means to have students. So maybe what we can try to do is enabling a virtual lab where we have this larger sense of understanding something complex. We can have people next to each other, collaborators, students, teachers, and we want everybody to have this sense of what we're looking at, understanding the phenomena, especially if it's 3D, and feel like we're there with each other. So how could we accomplish that? So our first try about 6 years ago uh, uh, started with, okay, let's understand first of all what kind of things we're looking at. For our world, there's a lot of MATLAB, a lot of Python, a lot of simulations going on. Julia has become a very big language in climate simulation. Lots of these things have just naturally 3D structures, so virtual reality, augmented reality, and any kind of 3D in two dimensions makes sense. Versus here is part of some of humans' lungs bronchial. So in this, you can see those things in front, things in the back. It's extremely hard to make a 2D representation out of it, even if 2D actually would seem to even if 2D actually helps us understand it cognitively is a better system. 3D is what we need for the 3D context. 3D, but ultimately, once we understand the 3D, the truth is that to be able to really break it down in a way that our brain understands, taking that 2D just makes a lot more sense. And that is our constant experience when dealing with research scientists and with students is that understanding a 3D shape is really good for context and navigation, but then you need to narrow it, break it down, and project it into 2D spaces because that's just easier to manage and to control. Um, and So, and of course, the last part is collaboration and just creating classrooms out of it. So, what did we do? So, the first thing that we did is we created a collaborative classroom. We created this space in Unity called Extended Reality Teaching. You could log in there. Many people can go. They can go in there. They walk in. They're welcome. They have their desk. The desk is enabled with a PDF screen and a blackboard, and the blackboard is shared. And people can save their blackboard, and they can scroll through the things. They have easier buttons to be able to talk to the teacher in front of them. The teacher can actually count how many A, B, C's answers they want. They can raise their hands, and of course they can talk. They can relate, or they can go to breakout rooms. In those breakout rooms, they can either use the blackboards or just look at general different things. So we created this Unity space, and it was pretty successful. It worked really well, but again, it's hard to use a headset for a long time. And then how do we bring the simulation into it? Well, so now we need to find a way of putting like different simulations into the system. So forcing people to learn Unity to be able to put these things was too much. So instead, what we did is we decided let's go ahead and wrap it this so that we can actually put these things outside running services and then just take it through the sockets, through the pun server, and have this information pipe in. So with that, we created wrappers around MATLAB and around another C++ physics simulation, and we were able to bring information from MATLAB or a simulation of planets directly into Unity and have everybody see the same thing, everybody interact with the same simulation, and even tweak the size of the planet, the speed, everything that goes with it. Okay, but especially once we hit pandemic, not everybody has a headset. Not everybody wants to interact with the things the same way. So we really had to expand our sense of what we were doing. And we wanted to be able to do this modular and make it easier for people to wrap things around. So we created a higher quality server, we call it a concierge, based on Rust, and Rust is an extremely efficient language. And with that, we were able to not only uh, create wrappers around the simulations like MATLAB and C++ we had done before, but lots of other things, even a chat server, a user control server, and then pipe that, but not just pipe that into Unity, into VR, but pipe it even onto a browser. So we could create things that had the same simulation that you could see on a VR headset. You could have the same simulation running on a browser. But on a browser, we get the whole fun UI system that comes with a browser. So you can actually, so we know how to click and select things. Or we could do a physics simulation and have a chat, but it can also click interactively. And within here, so we were able to really expand the things that we could put it, and this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like on the browser, and you can see that it's fast, the network's efficient, and the same server that's sending information to the browser was also sending it to Unity, so people could see exactly the same thing we're looking at, but interactive in VR. And similarly, if we can do this in a browser and Unity, why not take it to Second Life? So if we even tried using the other external systems, a way to actually put it into Unity, and while it was pretty complicated, we actually were, sorry, into Second Life, we were actually able to put it in Second Life as well. Not that it was easy, we would do it again. Um, so, so yes, we were able to connect these things. But what else do we know? From our virtual reality days, we know that direct interaction um, um, is a really is a really good way of understanding the world around you. Um, uh, so if sorry, I got distracted by the chat. So if you actually go in there and are able to maneuver things and click the things directly, the colon 8000, make sure that works for the URL. Sorry, interacting with objects directly actually is very powerful, and it's a really good way of getting good sense of understanding. And in fact, we've done quite a bit of work, like I said, with JPL, where we actually did a version of the Mars rover driver tool, and actually worked quite well. And you could actually interact, and this is the tool that actually became the tool that gets used now for the 2020 rover. And it wasn't about 3D, even though they actually had created the first HoloLens version, but it was really about being able to understand the basic details of what you understand. And we did this for for gene expression, and we were able to actually create very complex things that even we were able to create a mural out of it, and we could see that researchers were actually really enthralled with it. Um, and it's really about this combination of the 3D with the 2D working side by side that actually is seems to be the way to actually understand and create deep meaning. So that's where we think we're going. So how will we project this into the current world? Well, as it turns out, um, VR is very strong. There's really cool ways of interacting with objects. We can put all sorts of medical data and things, or things, or educational data onto a browser, and we can create really strong spaces to create these VR experiences. But it's really the onset of new things that are actually more 2D centric, like the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro, that really enables a lot to enable much more complex things. So as we think of this, uh, how to bring together, the Vision Pro allows us to bring a much better sense of 2D screens that's crisp, that's clear, while we have 3D things next to it. So that's where we think things are going, is the ability to have this common space where you don't just see your interface to your data, but you can really dive into the 3D information next to it and kind of put it in a cohesive space. So this one screenshot of a 3D object next to a 2D browser window is what we think is extremely helpful. And just imagine, just putting this into a whole collaborative system where every student has the 3D model, has the screen, and can actually interact with it. Um, I think that ability to going back and forth and really get this sense of shared space with the new hardware, with software like the concierge that we created, I think that altogether is going to create a really strong sense of where VR and AR really weaved into into mixed reality will go forward for um, for uh, for education. Thank you, and I'm running a little over time, so I'll move it over today, and then I'll ask. Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Santiago. Very interesting presentation that you said. My name is Bill Schmachtenberg, Day Miami. I'm interested in virtual reality. I work with the Virginia Museum of Natural History. But before we get to that, just want to say a little bit about, you say virtual reality, everyone thinks of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and this is the horizon. So I want to say a little bit about that dinosaur guy. Love it. So just want to say a little bit about Meta because that might tie into what I'm doing. Meta, of course, acquired Oculus for $5 billion. So they've come up with an interface called Horizons, where you can go in without a gaming rig and without a cable and just explore a sort of a cartoony world. And I've been in Horizons now for a couple of years. First time I went in, it was mostly appealing to younger kids who had no supervision. And of course, they misbehaved. There was racial stuff, there was sexual stuff going on. And it got on NBC TV by a parent group, and they had PR problems. So I went in a couple of weeks ago, and they did try and clean it up a little bit. And mainly, they're doing something called community guides now. They actually have Meta employees going in to supervise children, and there's still some inappropriate discussion by kids, as you know there's going to be, but at least they're trying to monitor it a little better. They're having these guides going in and sort of showing kids, the right way to do things, which I'm happy about. All right. And even Meta agrees they're not quite there where they need to be. There's disclaimers on their login screens that, hey, there may be mature content, there may be stuff that's offensive. So they give you a heads up when you go into it. But it is an interesting virtual world. All right, so my interest is Unity. I've been using it for years. There's a lot you can do with this game engine. And in 2022, I went out west. I'm in New York now. I went out to Denver and touched base with the fine folks at Dinosaur Ridge in Morrison, Colorado. These are the guys that where a lot of the dinosaur finds were in the 1870s. So these are the people that really know what they're doing. Um, and I've taught for 33 years in Virginia. I taught mostly science, but I also ran a computer club. And I was absolutely shocked in 2017, 2018. how easy it was for students to create in uh, virtual reality. We got a Rift headset, and the students were coming out with VR racing games, Mars simulators. It was awesome. Okay. But then, like I said, my interest veered towards dinosaurs. And like I said, Dinosaur Ridge saw what I was doing and they said, "This is really cool. Yeah, we want you to make dinosaur simulations for us." I also am associated with the Virginia Museum of Natural History. They have dinosaur days. And they said, "Yeah, we would love to have you come and present." So this is one of the simulations I did. This was actually for last year, 2023, and you see some dinosaurs. Dinosaur Ridge picked what the animals they want in there, and then the Virginia Museum gave me some information to display. You notice that there's a heads-up display as people are running around. It's multiplayer. Then they see how many dinosaurs they're found and keeps track of how many guests have used it, and also keeps track of time. That was a big issue because Dinosaur Ridge and the Virginia Museum, they didn't want the Disneyland effect. They didn't want people waiting 10, 20 minutes just to get the headset on. And it worked pretty well, actually, as it turned out about that. So anyway, here's another screenshot from one of my virtual reality dinosaur simulations. One of the things why the museum liked the whole idea of VR is it conveys a sense of immersiveness, a sense of scale. When you're there and you're looking at this Camarasaurus and it's rearing on its hind legs, and you look up and you say, "My gosh, that thing is tall." You get it right away. Plus, you have the avatar for scale there. Funny you say that, Shiloh, because we do have a T-Rex coming this year, but don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, so it's July 21st, 22nd, 2023, and Dinosaur Festival is launched. And here I am I'm the third person in this slide, along with my helpers. I was really lucky the museum allowed me to hire up to 5 people. So I had the dream team. I had Darian Bradley from Virginia Tech, Brandon Delp, who was a paleontologist in Roanoke, and also we got Logan Howell from the Virginia Department of Energy. So we had a lot of good help there, and that helped it run really smoothly. If I did it all by myself, it would have been a disaster. All right. And one of the cool things we did was had multiplayer VR. So I could have a couple of kids getting the VR headsets on, and they're running around. They could see each other in the simulation, but also had a parent who could get on a computer and see what the kids were doing and see what they were seeing, which I thought went very well. And I had the museum gave me a nice big LCD screen, so while people were waiting to get the headset on, they could sort of see um, they could sort of see what the kids were doing and what they were exploring. And it wasn't just young kids; it was also adults who enjoyed the sim. So here's a couple that came in, put the headsets on, and could actually see themselves running around looking for dinosaurs and having a great time. One of the things that I learned was that VR and multiplayer was very popular. I would say three-quarters of the people that came to the demonstration, even though I had a PC version of VR, they wanted to wait. They wanted to get the headset on. They wanted to do the multiplayer stuff. That seemed to be where a lot of the interest was. All right, so I went to the museum last summer, did the demonstration, and I walked away going, "Well, that was cool, but were they really learning anything?" And so I went back to my high school, and they said, "Yeah, if you want to come back and do your thing at your old high school, we would love to have you." So I got 100 students in 5 classes that signed up for this project, and they went through. What they did was they were given a pre-quiz on the Jurassic to see how much they knew. They went through the simulation, and then they were tested again. And I was hoping to see big jumps in what they learned. All right. Well, before I get to that, let me show you a little bit about what the students saw. As they were running around and finding dinosaurs, they would get these pop-ups that would appear on the screen when they got close to the dinosaurs. And one of the things that Aaron LeCount at Dinosaur Ridge wanted was how do we know what we know? So I was given permission to take lots of pictures around Dinosaur Ridge and put them in the simulation. So here you see what are called brontosaurus bulges. When these big titans were running around, they were pounding the sediment in the sand. And if you look closely, you'll see these spherical formations in the rock. These are the bulges from the foot of the dinosaurs as they were running around. All right, so let's talk about results. Unfortunately, I didn't see a big jump in scores. All right, just from having the students do the virtual reality simulation. Scores only went up about 10%. So I'm going like, wow, that's not too cool. Okay, so I tried a couple of different strategies last fall. One of the things I did was I stood behind the students while they were in VR because I could see their screens and could point out, hey, maybe you want to look here, maybe you want to look there. And then I saw a bigger jump, 32% increase in what the kids were learning when I was helping them out. And I think we all know that teachers are the magical ingredient in any sort of educational process. You can't take them out of the equation, or it just doesn't work very well. Um, all right. So again, I also asked students, how do you feel about this? These were high school students, and the results of the surveys paralleled what the elementary school students were telling me. 80% of elementary and high school students love virtual reality and multiplayer programs. They said they want to learn this way. Today's students are ready for Ready Player One was the message that I came away with. All right. So now fast forward to 2024, and I want to work on a new dinosaur simulation for Dinosaur Days today. And I got a lot better dinosaurs, a lot better models, as you're going to see in a minute. But in order to use them, I had to use a later version of Unity, which meant a new XR VR system for Unity, which unfortunately, the program I was using, Streamality, doesn't work with this new XR VR program. So unfortunately, the simulation I'm going to be using this year at the museum is single player, but it's still pretty cool. I am looking for new ways to implement VR multiplayer. Meta does have an SDK, so you can use their avatars and some of their code to create multiplayer VR simulations. I've started playing around with that. But you don't get the full avatars that everybody likes with Meta. You get a head, you get a body, and you get some arms. So the tricky part is, how do we get a full avatar in VR using the new Unity system is one of the things that's been plaguing me. And whoops, go back for a minute. And there's one guy, his name is Gab Meister, who is doing some amazing work with avatars and VR. He runs a tutorial, so I've been looking over some of his things. So I'm hoping that I can make some progress using his work. And this is what the new simulation is going to look like. A lot better landscape, a lot better dinosaurs. One of the things with the new XR VR system is that you can control all the buttons on the controller. So that gives the developer and the creator a little more control over the interactions that people can have. And one of the things, especially that I want to do this year at the museum, is I've put my voice, I've narrated every one of the dinosaurs. So what you're supposed to learn, they're not only going to read it, but they'll also hear me say it. And a couple of people said when kids are in VR, they don't want to read anything. They don't want to read anything, period. So we're going to see if this makes any difference this year. But that's what it looks like. So we're going to have T-Rex and Triceratops. We're going to do the late Cretaceous. And so far, I've gotten some pretty good reaction already. I've got folks at Dinosaur Ridge and the curator at the Virginia Museum helping out. I interviewed Dr. Jordan Mellon at the Museum of Nature up in Alberta. He looked it over. And I also talked to Mark Carter at the U.S. Geological Survey, and he saw the sim and he said, this is really cool. You need to release this to the public as soon as possible. He said, I want my kid to use it. So anyway, those are the plans for what's coming up this year in 2025. And a quick plug for Vertec. I've got 3 museums on here. If you haven't been to them, I would encourage you. This doesn't really have to do with virtual reality, but Um, feel free to check them out. They're on the sim on the one of the skyboxes, and I can send you LMs if you want to check them out. But I've got exhibits from the Morrison Museum in Colorado, Virginia Museum of Natural History, and the Cincinnati Museum of Natural History here in Second Life. And that's all I have to say. And this is working out pretty well because we wanted to do about half hour of lectures and give you guys 25 minutes to talk, to ask us. So if you've got any questions, feel free to post them in local chat, or I don't even care if you want to take over the mic and ask them in voice. Don't have a problem with that.
Well, Dr. Schumacher, would you like your children to to be educated in distant manner with virtual reality, educated about dinosaurs? So the thing which is very, very, very much so stop very distant from our reality. I
I'm
don't
not.
think so.
I don't know if I understand the question there. Alexi, was that what you that were asking?
It was me, yes.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand your comment or question. Are you supporting the use of virtual reality in education? You said stop a couple of times. Maybe was your cat attacking the computer like mine does all the time?
Yeah. I can attack your computer all the times. All the time when your computer is not working, it is me, yes, of course.
Okay. Shiloh had a question. Am I saying that right?
I object all of what you told because it's all rubbish, just rubbish, gibberish. Well, elementary school should be offline. It's just basics. Don't you understand that?
Oh, you think that we should just send students back to school in real life?
And what you are talking about? You was talking about elementary.
Yeah, elementary students and also high school students. I'm all about
Wow, I didn't know that.
I'm all about motivating students, and obviously from the surveys that I've done, kids really love this. So it's just a new way of doing it. And I'm not saying that VR should replace the teacher. My comment was that really the teacher needs to be involved. It's just the next generation. Like we use Promethean active boards when I was teaching, to show PowerPoints and so on. This is just another way of getting the information. It's sort of like when you go to museums, they have like paintings of what the dinosaurs were like in the past. All this digital stuff, whether it's VR or AR, is just a better way of understanding it. Give you an example. I did one computer simulation where I did avatars in the late Cretaceous, and I started running around. And they got stuck. And I started to ask, why are they getting stuck in the simulation? The answer was simple. There were a lot of plants back there, and it was very marshy. And if you look at your shoes, the cross-sectional area is really small. If you went back to the
Oh,
lake,
come on. We are all about,
let me
of course,
let me just
we
point I'm
are
making.
in the virtual reality. Yes, you are right.
Let
But
me just finish the point I'm making, sir. All right, is if you look at your feet, it's a small cross-sectional area. You would sink into the swamp. And it gave me some insight as to if you had a time machine, you wouldn't want to go back to the late Cretaceous. You'd get stuck in the muck and you'd be prey for whatever unfriendly predators like T-Rex, raptors that have to be in the environment. So they can give me, and I think students, some insights as to what it would be like to actually live back then using this technology. All right. Shiloh, did you have a question?
thank you very much. I think that virtual dinosaurs would be a nice idea. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your comment. Shayla, Shila, Diesel. Am I saying it right? Did you have a question? Did you want to come in voice or did you want to put something in text? All right, I'm going to do text chat. That's fine.
I can see how this application would be very useful for doing remote learning across borders. Like, say, I had a class prepared on, why am I getting feedback? On American history.
Right.
And I had a remote learner in a college class or a high school class in Korea. I would be able to use this virtual environment to teach that class in a more realistic way. I think that could be very useful for remote learning, especially on specific topic-driven lectures or topic-driven experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly
Shiloh
see how
put a
this is useful.
yeah. Let me answer Shiloh Diesel's question about the prep time. It takes a lot. I build my own software and so on, and I allow a year for each 5 to 7 minute presentation. I don't expect teachers to do that kind of prep. Developers are going to have to come up with this stuff and then tie it into the content or the standards that people are trying to do. I'm just building my own thing because I like it. And as for virtual learning, absolutely. I'm all in favor of, like you say, is multiplayer VR simulation. If everybody has the hardware, and that's the tricky part. I use gaming rigs with link cables and Quest 2 headsets. It's just expensive. Each setup is like $1,500, but I can tell you the advantage to it is that you get a real immersive experience that is going to motivate kids to learn and also something that's going to stick with them. They tend to remember experiences like this. And I work with people all over the planet. I was in New York, but I just spent a year teaching a student in Virginia, near Virginia Beach. And I'm working with a family in Arizona. So all this virtual world, VR, AR stuff, if it's multiplayer, really knows no bounds. So, like you said, and you brought up history, I had students do for Black History Month, I had them do a VR simulation of the march in Selma, Alabama, across the bridge. That was very powerful. We made CBS News that year. So, students creating in VR, if they have the abilities, I think is an excellent way to learn. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm looking at the local chat here. Yeah, if you don't want to do voice, feel free to put something in local chat. Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of collaboration. And what I've found is that there are a lot of people that are willing to collaborate with teachers and educators. I had no problem getting together with staff at Dinosaur Ridge or the Museum of Nature in Canada or the U.S. Geological Survey. There are a lot of experts out there that are willing to get in touch with teachers and students if you contact them. My experience has been that a lot of teachers, they just stay in their little domain in their classroom with their kids, and they're busy enough doing that, and don't spend a lot of time collaborating with other experts. And it's a shame. You know, I look at all the time that's spent on, for example, work days where we don't have students. That would be an excellent opportunity for teachers to get together and collaborate, because that, I think, is the magic sauce where you have experts, scientists, historians working with teachers. Oh, quite good question from Ariella. Is Google Cardboard still support? I don't know. Gosh, I haven't used Google Cardboard in years. I think people are pretty much getting away from it, but that was a lot of fun. I had a student who actually did a competition for Congress and won Congressional App Stomp, Congressional App STEM competition in 2014 and won, and then actually got a trip to Washington, D.C. and showed off his VR Google Cardboard presentation. All right, and Stephen has a question for you, Santiago, about measuring outcomes.
Yeah, so this was again for higher education. So the first two stages were just proof of concept. It really, when we started getting into actual data analysis, that we could start seeing differences. So we had tools where in VR we were trying to find potential tumors in the bronchioles and the lungs, and we showed it to a set of radiologists at an NIH convention. And in fact, even the experts found that they could find things about 10 times faster. So there is ways to measure how effective these things are, and for the most part, they are much more effective, but it's very task-centric, and the system has to be efficient, and the whole space has to be around it. And I think by at the same token, there was a question about how much time does it take to set up a lesson, or how do you do things spontaneous in a lesson. I think that's where, again, we like thinking about future, where things are going to be in 5-10 years. There is plenty of examples of ways to generate things in real time. Tilt brush, gravity sketch are two amazing applications where, a little more from the artistic and CAD point of view, you can actually create models in real time. But imagine coupling that with AI. You can see very easily that if you have enough things stacked on top of each other, there will be a way to kind of create very rich visuals in a 3D VR space. So it is possible. The tools are just not there quite yet, but the bits and pieces, we can see those already exist. So we can see that, yes, within 5 to 10 years, all these things are going to happen. And I think that's why we're also excited about like the Vision Pro, which is just a good step into saying, okay, this is how we embrace this 2D with 3D environment. And in fact, we just had a big talk with Snapdragon, which are the people that actually do the chip for the competitor of what the Vision Pro is, which for Samsung and Lenovo, they're all using the same Snapdragon chip, and they're all realizing that finally, while VR and all these environments were not viable markets to create something, this idea of augmented reality, where you just replace your desktop with a screen that nobody else can see, just from a purely security point of view, you can see industry buying these AR headsets in droves, because they're going to get high quality, really easy to do. So, there's lots of indications of where the industry is moving, that they're actually finding a viable market and how things are going to progress.
So I have a question about why some students didn't like working in VR. Not quite clear. Some students clearly had the Quest 2 headset and maybe had used it a lot and were getting bored with it. A lot of students, it was new, and I think that's what led to the excitement. I see a couple of issues here. One is expense. I use gaming rigs and cables, and the Quest 2, each setup is around anywhere $1,500, $1,600. If I can get good enough with Meta's SDK, software development kit, and start writing my software to just run on their headsets, optimized, that brings the price way down. Now you're only talking about $200 a headset. So more students to be able to use it. Another issue I see is, can we get students creating for VR? And it's getting harder and harder. The 2017, it was so easy. Unity had out-of-the-box support. Literally, you create an environment, you drop the first-person controller in, and boom, you're ready to go with VR. Now it's what you have to do is you've got to drop this or XR VR camera in there. You got to set a whole bunch of things. It's technical, and trying to get it to run just on the Quest 2 headset. Now you're talking about side loading, and you have to have Meta account. So I see some problems that we've got. You talked about the Apple Vision Pro. have you played with that? Because I know it's expensive. It's what, $3,500 for one of those headsets. Santiago, what do you think about it?
Yeah, we have one, and our collaborators at JPL have a whole lab, like 20 of them. And the developing anything for Apple devices is a nightmare. But
Yeah.
the device itself is gorgeous. You can see the design, and you can see that they're solving a lot of the issues that should be just seamless, like just hand gesturing, the ability to just the eye gaze, so you can look at something and click on things. With the HoloLens, those things were like they hurt your neck after a while. This is so much better, so much easier. So yeah, this is basically the equivalent of the first iPhone, where you see the potential. You put it on and you say, okay, this is not quite there yet, but you see the potential how it solves a lot of the problems. Um, so yeah, um, so yeah, and yeah, coming back to there's a question about ChatGPT and 3D models and Blender. Um, it has to do a lot with, first of all, with AI is only as good as the training data set it has. So there is not enough open source free 3D models out there. So that's going to take a while for 3D models to be put in some kind of database that can feed into this training systems. So it's going to take a while before enough information is out there so that AI can be meaningful to create virtual models through AI, through hand gestures, through easy tasking. But I mean, like I said, Gravity Sketch and Tilt Brush are a good example of how you can generate sketches really fast in 3D and create complex things. So just the rest of it needs to catch up.
Can I say something? You've been talking about generative AI. Unity has had a very rich library of AI methods in it. I was doing the Jurassic simulation last year, and I had a problem finding one dinosaur. And I thought to myself, well, why don't I just set it when I log in for the dinosaur to find me with AI? And it did. Using vectors, it immediately moved from where it was to where I was and ate me. Well, that wasn't so much fun. So then I gave it GPS capabilities by programming some Euclidean distance measurements into the AI script. And I said, when you get within 5 meters of me, I want you to stop. And it did. All right. And then the next thing I did was I said, how realistic is this? So then I changed the GPS, the distance measurement to don't do anything until I get within 20 meters. So this would be like when the dinosaur actually saw me. And then I went to the curator and I said, is this realistic? And he said, oh, yeah. If you look at carnivore dinosaurs in the Jurassic, they had eyes on the side of their heads. They didn't have stereoscopic vision like a T-Rex, and it was foggy. So at best, they wouldn't be able to see you until you were within 20 meters of it. So again, one of the things that I like about these simulations, it's forcing me and students to ask really good questions about what it was like to live back in the age of dinosaurs. And then you get together with actual scientists and you start saying, well, what do you think about this? How far could dinosaurs actually see? And to me, the goal is for students to make realistic simulations of what it was like to live in the past and learn from those simulations. In fact, Arizona, their main standard for fifth grade, I love this, fifth grade, is for students to make models, okay, and then learn from them. And I think they're probably thinking of maybe dioramas with kids get little plastic dinosaurs and put them in terrariums and so on. But I'm saying with the technology that we have now, kids could be making nice digital, high resolution simulations and learning from them. We have any other questions? We're still about 5 minutes, but this is some great discussion.
I'm going to jump in here with a summary, so to speak. So we need to have something like generative AI that can take prompts from teachers, perhaps out of using a textbook or their notes or whatever, so that it can create content for the teacher and you don't need a year to do a small video.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Stay tuned. Like I said, a month from today, I'm going to be back at the Virginia Museum of Natural History, and I'm going to be collecting a lot more data. I'm hoping to survey and test over 300 students, and with the new simulation. And then when I get back, I'll do another talk. And Ariel, I think, has a question about the dinosaur exhibit.
You had mentioned that the kids didn't want to read. One way that you could go about solving that issue is they did. I'm sorry, the feedback is driving me crazy. You could put overlays, just kind of relatively transparent, like 60% transparent overlays on top of the displays that have the text on them that fades out over about 30 seconds, so that the kids have this anticipation of seeing this dinosaur, but they are presented first with the information, as opposed to having it at the top or the sides. Actually have it overlaid over the actual photograph. So that was a solution I just thought of.
That's not a bad idea. So the kids have to read about the dinosaur, and then they get to see the actual dinosaur from it.
Right. So it's an anticipation. Kids like anticipation.
Right.
When it comes to seeing things or seeing content. So a little bit of anticipation, not too much, 20 seconds or however long it would take them to naturally read the material. Another solution would be to have audio for children who have dyslexia or have reading challenges. So it automatically plays. Or at the beginning of the exhibit, you could have a choice to have an audio.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do this year. Is there's going to be audio as well as the text, and I have to be a little bit careful because the museum in Dinosaur Ridge place time limits on how much time kids have. It's not like this is a full-length 90-minute movie, or it's a video game that's released for hours of gameplay where you have. It's like suspense. You hear a dinosaur footprint, and then you see something pop up, and then you see some leaves rustling, and then boom, you're hit with the dinosaur itself. And so it's sort of like a quickie. How much can we cram into 3 to 5 minutes? This year I'm pushing it at 7 minutes, but I'm adding another station so that we won't have a lot of waiting. That's our big concern. Was we did one festival, and there was a line that was like 50 people long just to get to reptiles. It was the reptile festival last year. It was terrible. We didn't have that at the VR exhibit last year, though. I'd say 5 to 10 minute wait for most people. It was great. And this year I'm having 3 stations rather than 2. So they'll be able to get to the computers faster and stay on longer, I hope, is the expectation. So we'll see.
If I can chime in with my graphic designer hat, and with all the art students that I have, I think having physical things is usually a really good way to engage people of all sorts of different ages. So you might want to consider creating physical cards, well-designed physical cards with information about the dinosaurs, and have the kids in some way collect them and read them even before they get to the headset. So that allows them to have something physical in their hands, and that actually kind of activates cognitive parts of your brain that is really strong, and it also lets them kind of learn and move forward a little bit and get ready. So by the time they get to the headset, they already know what to expect. They already know, have a little bit of, they're going to see this dinosaur or that dinosaur. So you have to spend a little less time, exposing things with exposure on the VR, and they can just go to the other part of the experience and say, oh my God, this thing that I saw before in a card, this is what 10 feet looks like. This is what 20 feet looks like. This is what 30 miles per hour looks like. This is what 5 miles per hour. So you can really kind of push forward by kind of creating like a previous stage that creates a buildup. There's an idea.
It's a good one. In fact, I did that a couple of years. 2021, I was doing one on the Cretaceous Seaway, and I had a lot of students coming by, and I only had one or two headsets. So I would tell people, go look. This is a museum. Go look at the exhibits in the museum, and then come back. And so I think they got a better feel for what I was trying to teach them. Or when I taught at the college level, we would do virtual field trips where they would actually go out and try and find dinosaurs, not dinosaurs, but fossils and explore geologic area, and then we did the actual field trip. So when they got in the field, having done the virtual field trip, they already knew what they were looking for. They knew how the rocks were laid out, what kind of fossils to look for at each spot. I think it's that synergy is what you're getting at, Santiago, between real world physical objects and the virtual that really leads to a lot of better learning. And I'm totally in favor of that.
Well, how realistic is it to bring this whole idea from the museum scenario to the classroom setting? I think it's a wonderful thing, what's happening here. There was that guy, Alexei, that's saying, I think he was saying that there's nothing like the real thing. However, sometimes the virtual reality and reality can, one can lead to another, and you can create an intrinsic motivation, which is pretty much the key. I think it's when Santiago mentioned that headset that was $200 or something like that. When that happens, maybe it's possible for this whole thing to move in to actual regular thing in the classroom.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's moving that direction. The market has to be there, and I think they're starting to find a market where they can sell, 20,000 of these things to an industry or to a school system. That's going to drop the price. That's going to make things much more available. It's happening slowly, but they're seeing the usefulness on it beyond just 3D models and gaming. They're seeing it as security systems, as ways to create, rather than spending $3,000 on a screen that's going to go bad, you just create one of these headsets. So I think there's lots of pluses happening there.
It's probably just a matter of time from what it looks like.
I'd like to weigh in on that. I started with the museum because they were very open to virtual reality and trying it for their festivals. They make a lot of money at those festivals in 2 days. So they want to have really glitzy things for display that people wouldn't normally experience. So they were an easy sell. And then I went back to my school. It was funny. I ran into the director of secondary ed at a Subway in my town. And I was talking to her and I said, are you still worried about standardized test scores and with COVID getting them up? She said, no, not really. We're looking for something else. And I said, would you be interested in all this VR doing? And she said, yeah, I would definitely approve that. And then the principals approved it. And then the chairman of the science forum approved it. Before I knew it, I had 5 teachers saying, yeah, come on in and do it with my students. So it's a matter of how open is the leadership to trying new things. And a lot of it's going to be also, I've been doing this pretty much for free. Are they willing to pay for it? And that's where you get these snags. Leaders, whether administrators or central office, start saying, hey, this is going to be expensive to implement. And that's why I'm doing these studies to show, but there's you can get fantastic learning, and that's what we're all about.
That's probably just a matter of promoting it properly and making it available. I just mentioned the fate of the smart boards that used to be a big thing, and now it's just like dead in the water, right? I don't think that's the same case. I think there's some huge potential with this thing here, and I think it's real. Whether we want it or not, I think it's going to happen.
Okay, we normally try and keep these things to about an hour. So if you need to take off, feel free. If you want to hang around for a little while longer, like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more research on this next month at the Virginia Museum of Natural History, and I'll be coming back and hopefully doing some more of these talks. later in the summer or the fall. Thank you, Shiloh. Oh, and Shiloh, want to shout out to her. Thank you so much for helping promote this. I counted, we had about 22 people show up with only a couple of days notice. So I thank all of you for coming on a Sunday afternoon. All right, so I guess we'll just wrap it up at this point. Thank you. By the way, Santiago, thank you for co-presenting with me. I learned a lot about what you're doing.
This is awesome. Thank you.